Well, very good evening to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice on a Monday night. Thank you for joining me. Well, what a week it's been. Come on. How many of you walked into work this morning thinking, it doesn't matter what happens today. I know it's a Monday. I know the weather's shit. I know everything around me is crap. But hey, West Ham United have finally turned up for the season. Come on. Arsenal, Gent, and then Bournemouth. 3 games in a row where we've actually finally turned up for the season. And it's been, without doubt, the best week for West Ham United by a long shot. So good evening to all of you. Good evening to the moderators. And I just want to send out a little shout out to a few people. First of all, to David Moth and Graham Davis, who managed to help me get to Bournemouth yesterday. It was quite an ordeal. As probably those who went will know, it was pretty gruesome getting there. Something happened on the train tracks. I don't know. But we didn't get there. We didn't get there till just before Declan scored his second goal. But scored the West Ham's third goal. Sorry. So we missed the first 2 goals. But hey, it was worth it. We saw another 2 goals. We saw a decent performance in the second half. So it was worth it. And also a big hello to Leslie Pendlebury Bow and his lad, Steve Bell. Snot worth it. You didn't give me your proper name, did you, Snot worth it? But hello to you, Hughie Delaney and Stuart McConnell, who all said hello when I was at the game, either before, during or after the game. So thank you all for saying hello. Let's see who's in the chat tonight, because it's going to be quite a nice, pleasant evening. We're going to have nothing to moan about, or are we? Well, I might give you something to moan about when I tell you that Moyes might be staying, but we'll get to that later on. Good evening, Matt. How are you? I hope you're well, mate. One more year. For who? Declan or Moyes? Still, you're lucky. How did you get a Bournemouth? Oh, well, points. Anthos, good evening to you. Lord have mercy. Please come on, lads. No Moyes stay in business. Well, I can only tell you what's in the news. Hoping for a sweet treble of Moyes, Poison Dwarf, and Tory Brady out. Nothing less will do. I think you're going to be a bit disappointed, Anthos. I'm sorry about that. Good evening, Graham. I hope you're well. Well, we're all happy, aren't we? Good evening to you, Foxes. If we play like this, we can nick 12 points from the next games. Go above Chelsea. What more do you want? Go above Chelsea, get in a final of a European competition, win that. I mean, come on. Was it a bad season after all, if all that happens? Who else we got? Good evening to you, 10 men. How are you? I'm happy as Spurs here. Well, yeah. I mean, they had to do one better than us, didn't they, Spurs? We only lost 5-1 to Newcastle. They decided to go and lose 6-1. I mean, God, they always want to be top of the pile, don't they? Didn't they sack their interim manager tonight, I heard? Oh, dear. Good evening, Stuart. David Moyes, 100% right man for the job, and we need one more win. I agree with that. One more win, and I think we're safe in the league now. I said keep the faith. I was right. Even when we were bottom 3, you sure did, Stuart. Fair play to you. 10 men, Stuart, but it's the style of play with Moyes. Honest, it has been hard to watch. Let's not deny it. 10 men. We know it has been awful. And we've had to sort of go through this all season. That's why I sort of said, where has West Ham United been until now? Because we don't mind. I mean, ironically, people complain about stats, etc., and not having enough possession and so on. At Bournemouth, I think we only had something like 34% possession, and yet we scored 4 goals. So possession isn't always everything. And if you can't make the most of that possession, there's no point. It doesn't matter whether you have 90% or 20% or whatever. But I agree. The style of play has been poor. Good evening to you, Flameur. How are you? We will survive, but not because of Moyes. We will not make next round in Europe because Moyes will F it up like he did last year. I don't know. I think we've learned from that. I think there's a momentum with the team at the moment. Look, Alkmaar are not to be, they're a half decent team. Alkmaar, we're going to have to watch out for them. And I'll talk a bit more about them next week when it's nearer the game. But they're a team that we've got to be careful about. But then that's what we were told about Gent, and then we ended up smashing them, didn't we? 10 men, Stuart. If you're happy with the style of play, that's up to you. But I'm not. Worse than 50 years of supporting West Ham. I might as well ask the question now, and I'll ask the question later on as well. What if? Just what if? We continue to play in the style that we played in the last 3 games. What if we start scoring goals for fun again, and sort of climbing up the league? And you know, between now and the rest of the season, what we got? 7 games left in the league, hopefully 3 games left in Europe. What if of those 10 games remaining, we continue to play in the style that we're playing? Would that change people's minds? I think a lot of people have made their minds up already. They don't want to see Moyes stay regardless, even if we win a trophy, etc. But what if? What if it actually goes that way? What if we play Liverpool on Wednesday and then we got Palace away on Saturday? What if, again, you know, we put in the performances that we did and we continue in that vein between now and the end of the season? We win a European trophy and we stay in the Premier League. What will people think then? Will they then change their minds about Moyes? I don't know. I'm asking the question. I'm not saying that I want him to stay or go. I think I've kind of said it. I bet, you know me. I kind of supported Moyes right up until the new year, more or less, and then I started to sway. But now, in all honesty, if he stays and we continue to play in the vein that we're doing, fine. If he goes and we say thank you to him for everything he's given us, fine again. Good evening to you, Buffalo. How are you? Good evening, Mr. McLaren. I hope you're well. Buffalo again. This style of play is not great. This squad is wasted by Moyes. If we play free-flowing football, the fans will love it. He has to go. I've just asked the question, so I want you guys to answer me when I get further down. What if? Good evening to you, Mr. Pepper. Hi all. Sat waiting for the show with a sneaky beer and a cheeky smile after the Spurs got hammered and we hammered Bournemouth this weekend. I mean, what could be better, eh? I mean, not only denting Arsenal's title hopes the weekend before, and then going out and getting into the semi-final of the European tournaments, and then going and beating Bournemouth, one of our relegation rivals. And then what happens? Spurs go and just put that cherry on the icing on the top of that cake, don't they? It was wonderful. Good evening to you, Jerry. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, George. How are you? Kind of prefer us playing counter-attack with third. You know what? I do too. It's more exciting. We absorb the pressure, you know, not give too much away, but 30 or 40% a counter-attacking play. It suits us, doesn't it? We're almost back. Well, not almost. It looks like we have. I asked the question a few weeks ago. I think when we beat Nottingham Forest 4-0. And I asked the question, have we turned the corner? And it was a false dawn. You know, we hadn't turned the corner then. But I just wonder now, the last 3 performances that we put in against Arsenal, Gent and Bournemouth, have we now turned the corner? Are we going to go back to this counter-attacking play? Moyes has tried something different. It didn't work for him. He doesn't know how to do, you know, sort of being on the front foot. I know sometimes we're going to have to be on the front foot, but do it at certain games, not try and do it for the whole season. And I quite like it, Trudge. Again, the what if question. You know, if we go back to doing that and we're successful again, why not? You know, would he stay? Trudge again, if we are snappy and good on the transition, it's exciting. Totally agree. I find Man City boring though. Black Country, good evening to you. Good news is on time again. Hey, come on. I was on time. Mark, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. A great week for us and can even get better on Wednesday if we keep the momentum going. Look, I know Liverpool, you know, they're one of those teams that have been hit and miss this season. Why not go out and give them the sort of game that we did against, you know, do the press again like we did against Arsenal. Don't be afraid of them. Don't give them too much room. Don't give them a lot of time to play their game. You know, be in their faces, just like we did against Arsenal. Absolutely no reason why we can't get a result out of that as well. Good evening to you, Paul. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Good evening to you, James. The Moyes has embarrassed the Judas amongst his disciples. Good evening, Lord Patrick. Has everyone tried their knickers yet? See, you know, I'll tell you what's good about this show is that people still have the divided opinions, but at least we can debate them, and I think that's great. You know, and you know, I was speaking to some people at like Leslie and other people at the game on Sunday. And they said much the same thing. You know, Moyes' time, you know, okay, great. He's given us a couple of great years, etc., but his time has come to go. And people are reasonable about it. And it's good to have that debate. But, you know, there's people that still want Moyes to stay. And there's people that still want Moyes to go. Let's see. Who else we've got? Gronda and Tony, good evening to you. Morning for the Aussies. The Under-18s Cup final is on 10. On 10 Play. I guess that's a channel. At 4 a.m. Are you getting up for that? I'm going to that tomorrow night. That sure will be good. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on. Mark, hi Stuart. Yes, 38 points. You see us safe and able to focus on the semi-final matches. I agree. One more win. I think I said some weeks ago, 5 wins. We're on 4 now. One more win, and couple of draws here and there, and that will be absolutely fine. Lord Patrick, seriously, guys, am I the only one naked? Yeah, no, you're not. Mr. Tiley, how are you? Even in Black Country, we don't need more wins. We don't need 2 more wins, mate. Everton won't get 12 points and Leeds won't get 11. Well, 1 more win will be great. 2 more would be fantastic, but onwards and upwards. Goodness me. Howard, good evening to you. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Stuart, Tommy Cooper t-shirt on West Ham tracky bottoms. Oh, was that what you're wearing at the moment? Great. Good evening, Martin. How are you? I never expected a turnaround in form like we've seen over the last few weeks. Isn't it wonderful? Don't we feel great and happy and, chirpy and sort of like as if the last 8 months or 7 months didn't happen? No, well, they did. We know they did. Black Country. Steve Tyler, you never know, Steve. After all this football, remember, too good to go down, 42 points. True. But 42 points. You look at the teams below us at the moment, or certainly in the bottom 3. I think Southampton now got 24 points. They're running out of games. Yes, they can get up to 42 actually, ironically, with the remaining games they've got. But you can't see them getting that. I don't want to. I think one more win will do. But of course, why not just go out and win as many as we can? Even better. Good evening to you, Steve Brown. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Mr. Dodsey, I didn't see you on Sunday. He's like the trains on Sunday. He's late like the train. I didn't see you, mate. I hope you. Thank you for the videos, but I've been, I got back really late last night, and then trying to put this together. And I was in the office all day today as well. They called me into the office on a Monday. I mean, what a work thinking of. Juha, I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. I hope you're well. NWO, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Dodsey, Stelio, stop putting on your makeup. It's only, look, 9:32 you sent that out, so I wasn't that late. Flameur, so what's so long, Stel? Is Come on, people. I'm here. Let's hope the internet don't go down or some other technical hitch. Stel's finished the washing up. I'm going to have to do it after the show because the missus cooked, so I've got to do the washing up. It's not worth it. There you go. Good evening to you. Thank you for coming over and saying hello yesterday. Good to meet you at the game. Absolutely. But like I said, you didn't tell me your real name. Richard, Stelios, who would you like to see in the celebrity jungle from our team? And why can't you say Mazuka's he's gone? Why can't you say, I did say it last week, Masuaku, he's gone. Well, I said that last week. You must have missed my show or you must have fallen asleep. He is a permanent Besiktas player now. Good evening to you, Daniela. How are you? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Steve. Great day out yesterday. Great to see you. Great to see you too. I hope I did get you. I did. Yes, I did give you a shout out. I hope you're well. Did you? We did. We actually, ironically, we as we were walking, someone we knew in a car was waving us, and we shouted out, "Give us a lift!" And it gave us a lift to the station. That was a result as well. Debbie and Mark, good evening to you. Love the performance. The team has put in throughout the past couple of weeks. Seems like the old West Ham again. Long may it stay this way, hey? We are going. Let's be realistic. We know we're going to get a shit performance coming up. We know that it could be against Liverpool. It might be against Palace. We know there's a shit performance coming up, but let's not lose it if there is, because if we continue in the vein that we did in the last 3 games, put in a few more performances in like that, we're going to be fine, aren't we? We're going to be European champions, etc., etc. NWO only 1 defeat in the last 10 games. You're spot on. Good evening to you, Robert. How are you? I hope you're well. Who else we got? Good evening to you, Jason. How are you? Good evening, Vinay. Moyes is Moyes in, Moyes out for the end of the season. Let Moyes spend another 200 million. Well, he probably won't spend anywhere near that. I think I said in about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we have got another rebuild coming up. There's absolutely no doubt about that. We know that we're going to have to, get in another. Well, if all the players that we think are going to leave, I think we need another 7 or 8 players. But I don't think Moyes is going to do that. And I also don't think Moyes is going to spend big money either, to be quite honest. Look, he's tried it, hasn't he? He's gone out. He's tried to buy the big players, all this big money, etc., etc. He doesn't know how to use them. We know that. We admit that. He doesn't know how to use them. However, he might maybe go out and buy a 15 million pound player here, a 20 million pound player here, and maybe a 25, 30 million pound player here. That might be our lot. Maybe 4 or 5. Let's say, for argument's sake, 6 or 7 go. I reckon he'll only get in 4 or 5. He'll go back to that small squad mentality, which I don't think is right, But I think that's probably what he might do. So no, I don't think he'll spend that much. Even if he was given it, he wouldn't know how to spend it, would he? WHU, good evening to you. Still, definitely has been reading these comments. Good evening, Jerry. I hope you're well, mate. Mark Watson. Still, do we have the players to play a more possession-based style, or should we stick with our counter-attacking football, which is working? Well, play what works, to be quite honest with you, Mark. If this works, and it has been working, and look how more comfortable all the players look, even the new players playing this counter-attacking style of football, look how comfortable they actually look in it, in that setup. So why not? Okay, of course we would like to be, the Man City of London by playing possession-based football, but we're not that sort of team, are we? We there aren't that many teams that can do it and do it really well. So why not go with the strengths that we have and do the counter-attacking? If it continues to work for us, why not? Mind you, were we counter-attacking against Arsenal? I think we were more in their faces and a bit more forward thinking there. But the different styles of play should be adapted accordingly. There may be games where possession-based football will be right for us. There may be other games where we're better off counter-attacking. I bet you we play counter-attacking against Liverpool on Wednesday night, and if we win, fine. Still, you look a bit flushed by. I've got the heating on. It's bloody free. Bloody end of April. It's pissing down with rain. It's cold. I fucking hate that. Oh, Steve, good evening to you. Evening, Stel boy. Moyes out. There you go. Some people want to, fair play. I hope you're well, Steve. Adam, evening, mate. I hope I have faith all year, but it's been bleeding hard watching it, and just nice to see us playing well again. About time. Absolutely agree. Good evening to you, Hammerhead. I hope you're well. Moyes out no matter what. Okay, that's fair enough. People have it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. If we win the trophy, I actually said last week that maybe, this whole gossip about Sullivan and Moyes having this conversation about him going at the end of the season. I did a show and I said it kind of didn't really make much sense, to be quite honest with you. I couldn't see why that sort of conversation would happen. But I did turn it around and I suggested that maybe Moyes is the one that approached Sullivan and said, no matter what, at the end of the season, I'll go. It'll be interesting to, we probably won't know straight away. But if Moyes does leave, it'll be interesting to know why. Was it because he was pushed? I don't know. Or was it because he just decided he'll move on? Steve, Soufal looked injured at the end yesterday. Noticed he was limping when he came to clap the fans. I think he's fine, to be honest. And there's no reports about him being injured. Good evening to you, Garino. I hope you're well. Vinay. Black Country, you're still Moyes out. Vinay, players rebelled against Moyes' tactics. That's what happened. I don't buy that, mate. I know a lot of people have that theory, but I don't buy it. I really don't. Moyes has agreed to leave, so benefiting from the new manager bounce in advance. No, the whole rebellion thing, I don't buy. I'm pretty damn certain that, hopefully, the players have had their say in how things are happening, etc. Hopefully. Would Moyes have changed that for them? I don't know. But the Moyes agreeing to leave, well, I've just mentioned that. I'm not so sure. I don't know if he's agreed to leave or even if he does leave. I mean, there was a report, wasn't there, when he did one of his press conferences the other day, that he turned around and said, I'm planning for next season. And that's why I put in the title, is Moyes leaving, or Moyes leaving. He's talking about next season. Now, it could have been just a facetious throwaway comment to wind the fan base up, wind the journalists up, etc. But he actually did say in a press conference, I'm planning for next season. So does that mean he's leaving? Is he winding us up, etc.? It's very, very likely that if he's successful at the end of this season, winning a trophy, keeping us in the Premier League, it wouldn't be a surprise if he stays on next season. Black Country Spuds on the break. They are indeed. Kalispera to you, Keith. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Steve, still want Moyes out due to his tactics. We need a fresh approach. Yeah, fair. Vinay, keeping Moyes out of fear. I don't know if he'll be Moyes out of fear, because next manager will be another Pellegrini. Good point. It could be the unknown. It could be, we've done that, haven't we? Sullivan has done that. He made that mistake before where he got rid of Bilic and, all right, Moyes came in for the interim, and then he got the big signing, so to speak, manager Pellegrini, that he fell flat on his face. And yeah, quite possibly, could it be out of fear? But, the sort of managers that have been talked about, some of the young managers that have been named over the past few weeks, maybe that wouldn't be out of fear. It'll be a bit of the unknown, yeah, but fear, But that's the risk you take if you're going to go with a different style of manager, isn't it? So it could work, it may not. Pellegrini didn't work for us, did it? Paul, agree, Vinay. What has took so long? What has taken so long? I've got a few theories. I'll get into them in a minute. Ahmed, this changes nothing for me. Moyes has said and done too much. He has to go. WHU, how you doing, mate? Did you phone in on Bruce? I'm not. Sorry, you can answer that. WH Steve. Who else we got? Debbie and Mark. I hope Moyes has learned from kicking a ball at a ball boy. I hope he doesn't do that again. E. Davis, good evening to you. The problem is we will not progress with Moyes. It will just be this. That's quite possible. That is quite possible. We don't know, do we? Good evening to you, Damian. I hope you're well. Missing their two best players in the first leg, AZ. Doesn't matter. We still got to make sure that we got to be, you've got to treat them with some respect and not think that we're going to go out and whack them. Another manager can do better than Moyes. Think about that. Possible. It is possible, but then don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating for Moyes to stay. I said it earlier on. If he stays, fine. And if he continues to play the style of football that we've been playing for the last 3 games, absolutely fine. If he goes, I'll thank him and then we move on. But yeah, I've said it. I've said that there could be other managers that could get a better tune out of some of the players. But finally, he seems to be doing that. Will it continue? We don't know. Only the rest of the season will tell us. Will we progress into the Europa Conference to the final? Will we continue to play well in the Premier League and keep pushing up? If we do that, then you might turn around and go, I don't know. Is that because of Moyes? I know people have got that theory, Vinay, that you mentioned a moment ago, that there's kind of mutiny and then doing their own thing. I don't really buy that. Well, good evening to you. Not for me. Another Moyes out. Howard, AZ, know the dark arts very well. Have a long-standing European pedigree, not to be underestimated. Absolutely agree. Good evening to you, Devon and Dave. I hope you're well. Credit to the manager, but time to move on to a more attacking style, regardless of the trophy and strong finish. So it seems that there's still more people that want Moyes to leave. That's fine. So Black Country, sorry, still, it's my opinion. It's a no for me. Still out. Garino. Problem is, if Moyes stays, we won't see the best of Scamacca. We won't see Scamacca anymore. I'll get onto that in a minute. Ings, Fornals, etc. But Antonio and Creswell and Fab until they're 43. You know what? You say it in jest, but there's an element of truth there. Good evening to you, Moisaurus. Get real. MF's players are deciding the tactics and told Moyes to take a high. I don't buy that. I genuinely don't. I get this. Moyes seems to have reverted back to our counter-attacking play. But I don't know what. For completely ignoring the manager, going out and doing what you want might work for one game, but I don't think they're going to be the sort of players he'll pick for the next game if they keep rebelling. I don't buy that sort of thing can happen. It might happen during a game, one game, but the last 3 games, I don't know. Paul Evans, young progressive manager, please, Jerry. I'm in Team Moyes. Metaphorically speaking, chopping and changing isn't going to help. That's a good point as well. Lord Patrick, hang on still. Let me play another half-hour PlayStation and last question. Good evening, Hammer Peters. Good evening, Paul. Good evening. How's the Moyes Out Brigade doing this evening? Paqueta's finally starting to look the player we signed for. He's finally getting a tune in the Premier League. Absolutely. I totally agree. It is Paul, isn't it? Paul Peters. Hammer Peters. Might not be. Previous 18 months speaks volumes, but what about now? Good evening, Funky T. How are you? Evening, Stel. I did say we seem to be okay. We seem to play better when we play 3 games a week. That's a really good point that I was going to pick up on as well. Style, who cares whether it's stylish or not, so long as we win? That's another thing. I remember doing a show with Nigel ages ago, and he was talking about the players back in, Alvin Martin and players like that, saying that they prefer to play regularly than train, so because you pick up that momentum. Okay, there's a risk of getting injured as well, but you pick up that momentum and you play one game on a Wednesday or the old-fashioned way and then a Saturday, and when you play consistently rather than training more, players prefer to play. And I just wonder if that's helped. We talk about Europe being a hindrance in terms of the Premier League. But at this stage of the season, where you've got the continuous games, Wednesday, Saturday, Thursday, Sunday, etc., etc., I wonder if the players prefer that. They're in a rhythm, aren't they? And the last thing we want now is to break that rhythm. We've got a game coming up on Wednesday, then another one on Saturday, and what is it? And then maybe we've got, then we've got Man City. So we've got games, we've got midweek games all the way through, I think, to the end of the season now. And that might not be a bad thing. And we've got a bigger squad, let's not forget. We've got a much bigger squad now. Moyes can rotate. He's been rotating people. He's been bringing players off, bringing players on, a little bit more fluidly. And we don't look bad for it either. Flimmer, he has to go. Rubbish football. Everyone calling us Stoke United. Stoke United. Good evening, Ian. How are you? No, you just... you can't just Moyes to play this style of football next season. Moyes out. Dinosaur out. And young Mammal... Will Still or company in. We won't get Vincent Company, and I genuinely don't think Will Still will be good enough for the Premier League. I really don't. Yes, fine. Let's get a younger, a different type of manager in. But we've got this vision of Will Still. He's a West Ham fan, etc., etc. I'm not so sure. He's done well. Don't get me wrong. He's done well in the French league, but I'm not so sure he'd be good enough for the Premier League. To be honest, I could be wrong. Garino, one swallow does not make a summer. Well, there's been 3 in a row. We pressed high yesterday, NWO. We did, and we played well. It was good. DMH, Moyes in. There you go. There's differences of opinion. Adam, we need at least two goal lead in the first leg, but still think we can win the cup. Moyes needs a good pre-season with all the players fit, and we could have a good season next year. Well, there's the other thing, isn't there? Because we've already agreed to go to Australia, and we already know, and that might be a little hint that Moyes might go, because he doesn't like overseas tours, especially as far away as couldn't get any further, could you? And he's not up for that. He's not sort of in for that sort of thing. So that's going to hinder him. With all the players, and certainly we won't have most of our players going out to that tournament. Trodge, I've kept on saying we need Paqueta and Fornals for the high press. I do agree with that, and I'm going to talk about Fornals and Paqueta separately in a minute. Daniela, Moyes staying or not. It all depends on who's out there. I still think he walks first. My theory is that, that if he's going to go, it'll be because he's decided to go rather than being pushed. I guess it doesn't matter, does it? If he's gone, he's gone. So whether he's pushed or not won't matter to a lot of fans. Robert, good evening to you. No, this isn't Moyes changing our playing style. It's the players. Moyes devalues players. We need an expansive manager to make sure our new players don't leave. I know a lot of people want to... no disrespect. I know that that's an opinion that a lot of people have. I genuinely don't think that that's the case. But I could be proved wrong. In a few years' time, we might find out what happened, all the shenanigans that might have gone on in the background. Graham, good evening to you. Moyes still needs to go the season up until recently. He'd been awful. There's no guarantee that he wouldn't revert to type. Yeah, good point. That is true. E. Davis, can we talk about something else, please? We argue at the end of the season. Well, that's a good time to go on to the next part of the show. So we've got some exciting game, an exciting game coming up on Tuesday, don't we, with the under-18s? But let's start with the women's team. They were back from international duty. Not a very good return for them. The women's team were playing Man City at the weekend, and they got humbled 6-2. The scoreline. Things didn't get off to a good start for the Hammers, with Man City scoring twice in the opening 7 minutes. I think someone was singing "Are you Spurs in disguise?" but that would be unfair on the women's team because they're better than Spurs. We provided an immediate response, but City restored their 2-goal lead midway through the first half. 3 second-half goals were conceded, but we can only respond with 1 more goal. Quite a bitter pill to swallow. That's their 4th defeat in their last 6 games, leaving them 8th in the league. There are 4 games left in the women's league this season, with the next game coming up against Brighton away from home. So let's hope it gets a little bit better for them. The under-21s were in action, and they didn't, it was a hard-fought competition, but they didn't get their just rewards against Liverpool away. Mark Robson, manager, the coach, said there were plenty of positives to take from the game, Saturday's trip. He said they were very resolute, the under-21s, but we suffered from a first half goal. It was a switch in formation for the under-21s with a 4-4-2, and goalkeeper Christian Heggie was largely untroubled until their goal. We haven't won a game now since our 5-0 drubbing of Wolves way back on the 20th of March. But we haven't been losing that many games either. There's been a lot of draws and sort of the odd defeat here and there. We head into the final 2 games of the 22-23 season, confident, but because of the game that we played against, even though we didn't get the result, confident in our style of play. We're 11th in the league, 4 points clear of the drop zone. So one more win will be enough for us not to sort of drop down in the bottom 3. But it's all about the under-18s this season, isn't it? They continue to march on. They played Leicester City away from home in the league at the weekend, and they just continued their winning streak with a 3-1 win over them. Quite convincing 3-1 win. The under-18s have already secured their Premier League title, of course, and Kevin Keane, he put out a much-changed side and a very inexperienced side against Leicester, but they were still very impressive with their results. They now face the under-18s. They now face Man City, who are the champions of the Premier League under-18s North, and so they'll be having a one-off playoff. I don't know when that is. Apparently, I don't know when they're gonna do that, but I'll let you know when the date comes. In this game, Blaise Owanji, another new name to start, scribbling down. And Liam Jones saw the visitors take a 2-goal lead before Leicester pulled one back. Owanji secured his brace seconds after the interval when he scored an 18th for our 18th win of the season in 21 games. Well done. And then, of course, we've got Tuesday night. The reason why imagine resting all your under-18s in preparation for the FA Youth Cup final. So we basically had a fresh team that went out and beat Leicester. I mean, people say the academy doesn't work, etc. You sure? Under-18s are preparing, of course, for the Tuesday night's FA Youth Cup final against Arsenal. It's at the Emirates, and I'm sure we'll see the likes of Kadua, Scarles, Marshall, Mbama probably all come back. Mark Noble was talking a lot about the under-18s today. He said he's got a focus on creating the right pathway for these young players. He talked highly of the coaching staff and what he wanted when he took over the job as sporting director. He talked about the group of players that we actually have at the moment, and there's a big, there's a buzz about them. There's a lot of excitement about them. And Noble sort of reiterated that what they need. It's the importance of developing a youth team is to have coaches around them that they can trust, that they can build a relationship with, a good understanding and good rapport. And Noble thinks that's what we're doing, especially with Kevin Keane at the helm of the under-18s. He talked about, not being able to compete. He mentioned this before, but not being able to compete with the likes of Man City and Chelsea and teams like that. We don't have the financial clout that they do. So developing young players is absolutely crucial. And I dare say some of the young players that we got in the under-18s hopefully will make it through into the senior team. Now, let's not go expecting that we're going to get half a dozen under-18s playing, being subs in games and playing in the first team, etc. It doesn't work that way. And I know a lot of you believe that Moyes doesn't give academy players an opportunity to shine, etc. But it's a journey for them, and it's a journey that can sometimes take a long time. It's a journey that may not happen in the Premier League. It's a journey for some of these players. If they want to forge careers in football, they might some of them will end up having to do it, maybe in other leagues, in Championship or League Division 1, etc., etc. But if we can get even 1 or 2 players coming through over the next coming years, wouldn't that be a success? Anyway, the journey continues tomorrow for the under-18s. We're playing, as I said, we've got Arsenal in the FA Youth Cup final. 7,000 tickets sold out in the away end. Absolutely fantastic. I believe there's going to be something like a 20-odd thousand capacity. I don't think it's going to be a full crowd. I could be wrong, but my understanding is there'll be something like a 20,000 capacity, and there's 7,000 West Ham fans are going to be there. I'll be there with a few friends, looking forward to it. And let's hope we win the FA Youth Cup trophy that we haven't won since the Joe Cole days back in 1999. Fantastic. And I really, really hope they do well. Right, let's go back into your chat before I get on to the next part of the show. Eamon, have we now become a club that wants to sack its manager? And every time we've had a bad season in the league, have we become a club where league position is more important than a trophy? Well, this was the debate. If anyone watched the Friday night show, Friday late night, there was a debate going on there. But I had Nigel on, and talking about, would you rather win a cup rather than finish, I don't know, 8th in the league or something like that? Well, how many times? Look. Let's get it clear one thing. I wouldn't sacrifice the Premier League for a trophy. Of course not. I don't think anyone will want to see us go down just to win a trophy. But if we finish mid-table and we win a trophy, is that a good season for West Ham United or not? Winning a trophy now puts you in Europe. Again, puts you in Europe anyway. So it doesn't have to always be. Well, not doesn't have to always be, but there are so many teams now with so much money in the Premier League that it's getting harder and harder and harder to break not only into the top 4 but into the top 6. So if West Ham become a club to win a trophy here and there in order to get into Europe, would that be good, or would you prefer us to be further up in the table? I know a lot of you are going to go, I prefer both. Garino, fact is, we've been poor for some time, poor game management, subs and no plan B, just square pegs, round holes, and expansive players being devalued. Moyes did well for the toll he was given. Let's move on. Helen, good evening to you. Yes, we did unfortunately lose 1-0. Good evening, Epic. I hope you're well, mate. Good evening, Mr. Cox. I hope you're well. Good to see you outside. I felt sorry for you. If I could have found a way to get you into the stadium, mate, I would have done. But I would have told Jake to stay outside and wait until the game was over. But you're a good dad. You're a good dad. But good to see you, mates. Let's scroll down. Black Country. Steve Tiley still reminds me of that rock singer 1970s. Oh, what was that, son? Oh, yeah, Black. Delete, block. It's not worth it. Great win yesterday. Let's be honest. Bournemouth were terrible. They were. But we can only play who we got in front of us. I know people are going to say, well, Gent, they were. Well, people weren't saying, oh, Gent, who are they, when it was 1-1 at their ground last week. And Bournemouth, they're only relegation fodder, but they were poor. I didn't think we'd slice through them the way we did, to be quite honest with you. They left our forward players unmarked for some of the goals. They were sloppy. They made us look like Man City. I'm not so sure they made us look like Man United, maybe, but... Cockney, the aim now should be to finish above the rim, boys. Wouldn't that be hilarious? Wouldn't that be absolutely hilarious if we actually did that? Epic. When Moyes has a good season, we'll finish 6th. When he has a bad season, we're battling relegation. I've seen enough. Moyes out. Fair enough. Let's scroll down. Good evening to you, Trevor. How are you? This is a refreshing run of form. It is refreshing and it's nice. And I've got a smile on my face. And even though, I went through the rain today and it took hours to get there, missed half of the first half and all that crap, I still got a smile on my face. It makes you happy when West Ham play well and West Ham win. Good evening, Fo. How are you? I hope you're well. Helen, we've got Leeds, Leicester, Brentford, Man United, Man City, Palace and Liverpool. Where will the points come? Leeds, Leicester, Palace and Liverpool. How about that? Good evening, John. How are you? The board has the board has to take credit for sticking with Moyes. It's only going to get better as players start understanding each other's game. That's another good point. That's the other way of looking at it, isn't it? And I know people have had enough. I know that. Don't get me wrong. I get that. I get people who've had enough of Moyes and saying it's time for him to go, etc., etc. But that is the other side of the coin, isn't it? It could get better. Now that the players have a better understanding, the board have stuck with Moyes, etc. 12 managers have been relegated. 12 managers have been fired in the Premier League this season, and some of those managers, the teams they left, are still down in the bottom 3. So you got to look at it in both ways. No, it's not an advert to keep Moyes. I'm not saying that, but in a way, John, you're right there. They have got to take credit for sticking with Moyes. Mark, we still need a mini rebuild this summer. We absolutely do. So do we let Moyes Newman do this, or should we be looking for a more progressive manager and buy the players that suit a more attacking style? But we talked about that a minute ago. What sort of style do we want? I guess we want a style that wins. Now, if that's counter-attacking, isn't that fine? And then you'll have a manager that will go out and buy a counter-attacking type of footballers. If you want that forward progressive, yes, fine. If it means that we're going to be winning games, absolutely. But yeah, you're right. I think Moyes got caught in the crosslights, didn't he? He's a counter-attacking type of manager, but he went by the sort of players that he did, and then he tried to shoehorn them in, and it didn't work. He's reverted to type. And he's gone for, as people said earlier in the show, he's gone back to the counter-attacking style. Does that suit some of the players? I think Paqueta's looking good in that sort of style. I don't think Scamacca, it will suit him, no. But like I said, I don't think Scamacca's coming back anyway. But some of the other players, Cornet, could benefit from a counter-attacking style of football. Yeah, some of them could actually. But it's a good question. We do need a rebuild. You're absolutely right. Should it be Moyes and Newman? You could argue. I mean, it's interesting because I talked about this with Nigel again on Friday night, and we went through the players that we bought and said, success, failure, etc. And I was thinking about this. Areola, I think I wanted Areola to be our number one. I think he's, given a good run of games, I think he would be a good purchase. So he's one. Kera's had a really hit and miss sort of season, hasn't he? But there have been games where he's shown real promise. There have been games where he's been really awful. So that's a work in progress. Emerson, absolutely improved. In fact, we were surprised, weren't we, that Emerson was dropped from the team recently to bring Cresswell back in. But you could argue Emerson has now fitted in and he's doing quite well. Flynn Downs, another work in progress. Every time he comes on, the boy never lets us down. He's definitely a player for the future, so a work in progress. So that ain't a failure. And then we've got Paqueta. I think Paqueta has actually shown what a classy footballer he is. He can only get better, so that ain't a failure. Who else have we got? Agurd started off really well. All right, he had a long injury, started off really well. He's had a few dodgy games, but nonetheless, you can see there's a good footballer in him as well. And I think, I can't remember who I've missed out, but Scamacca is probably, you would argue, the only player that actually is a bit of a failure. All right. And I agree with the principle that he's not being used in the right way. I buy into that. I was saying the same thing about Hilaire. Hilaire, if he was used in the right way, he would have been a success for us. And I think Scamacca has suffered from the same thing. But out of the 8 players that we brought in, I can't remember who I've missed, but out of the 8 players that we brought in, you could argue that maybe you've got a few work in progress. You can see real potential in the likes of Flynn Downs, etc., etc. Cornet we haven't seen enough of because he's been injured, but we know there's a good player in there and so on and so forth. So the only player that maybe has been a failure so far has probably been Scamacca. So has Moyes and Newman actually done badly in the transfer market or not? I don't know. You tell me. Eamon. Are we to become a team that doesn't? Yeah, done that one, mate. Thank you. And I do agree with that principle. Good evening to you, WHU. I hope you're well, mate. I think our recent turnaround is more to do with coaching staff and players airing their views to Moyes about how we should play. It's very possible. It's very possible. And thankfully, he's finally, if that is the case, thankfully he's finally listened. Steve, I reckon Souček has pictures of Moyes and none compromises the situation. How does it? I've got to be honest with you, Steve. I know people will disagree with this, but he's done the dirty work and he's been playing decent. He's not been the 10 goals a season player that we knew about a couple of seasons ago, but he's been getting his foot in. He's been decent. And as you saw in the game against Gent, did Declan deliberately to give him the armband on Thursday night? He made a beeline for him, didn't he? And gave him the armband. Could have given it to anybody. Could have given it to Zuma. I think it was Zuma maybe first, and then I think he then changed his mind and went to Souček. Did he do that to say, I respect you? You're my fellow colleague. I think you're doing a good job, etc. It's interesting, but I do think that Souček has been playing okay. He hasn't been dynamic. Totally get that. He hasn't been the goal-scoring midfielder that we had when we first brought him in, but still, he's doing the dirty work. And I think sometimes people might miss that, might not realise that. Steve, how ironic would it be? By the time we play Man City, we are safe. We can rest players for the semi-final rather than testing theirs against. Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? And then go out and beat with our second team, go out and beat Man City as well. Steve, Stell gave the doll to the best session. I'm not going to finish that. Daniela, possession is everything. It's what you do with it that counts. Absolutely agree, you bastard. Where are you, Garino? 25 degrees. Just saying, are you? It's another one. I know you are, Black Country. Good evening to you, Lincoln. How are you? Thank you for joining. Pash, good evening to you. Enjoying the goals flying in late. I mean, we've been scoring for fun. Goals are fun, as Nigel will say. Aaron, have I missed? Not really, mate. We've been talking about Moyes and Moyes again. Talked about the women's team, talked about the under-21s, and talked about the under-18s with the final coming up tomorrow. But other than that, we've been talking about Moyes. Jerry, Moyes will get his players from the Championship. That hasn't been too bad of a strategy. Bone and Antonio are two. Moyes for the manager of the month. Let's see. Good evening, Sean. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Damien. I read an article today saying Mikel Antonio is ranked top 5 in the world for strikers. Shut up, Damien. The list also includes Terry Abraham. Damien's a massive Antonio fan. And I've got to be honest with you, Damien. He's been absolutely fantastic in the last few games, Antonio. Back to his old self. Former West Ham target, Jonathan David. Please send me that article. You might be right, but I don't believe you. WHU, we're pressing better as a whole team with more decisive forward passing. Paqueta becoming our saviour. He's been great. I'm going to talk a little bit more about him. I'll tell you what, let's go into the next part of the show, which is about player news. So let's do that. So, just a few updates to bring you on player news. Let's go with our loan players at the moment. Now, I'm no longer going to talk about Masuaku. He's no longer a player of ours. He's no longer on loan. I can't tell you. I can't give you an update. I didn't even bother to look and see how he's doing. Good old Arthur. We're going to miss him, aren't we? Anyway, Nikola Vlasic, right, returned to the Torino lineup at the weekend against second place Lazio in Serie A. In their away win at the weekend. Vlasic played a pivotal role in the game where just a couple of minutes before half-time, he provided the assist for Ivan Ilic to score the only goal of the game. It was Vlasic's third assist of the season, and it was his first involvement in a Torino goal since the game against Sampdoria back in November. Do you remember when he had that golden patch, that purple patch, sorry, golden patch, I don't know what I'm saying. Do you remember when he had that purple patch early season, and everyone was saying, "Oh, that bring Vlasic back. He's brilliant. He's brilliant." It did virtually nothing between November and now. But good for him. He got the assist for the win at the weekend. Now, I mentioned a few weeks ago that Torino, they haven't had a consistent run of form lately, and they've fallen well away from the European places in Serie A. They lie 12 points. They're in 11th place, 12 points behind Inter, who are currently lying 6th in the league. And it doesn't look like Torino are going to qualify for Europe next season. 7 games to go. It's possible, but 7 games to go. Mathematically, they can. But it'll be a bit of a tall order. And as mentioned, if they don't qualify, there's a big question mark over whether they're going to keep Vlasic next season or not, whether they're going to make him a permanent signing. There's quite a chance that he won't. So what will happen with Vlasic? Will he come back to West Ham United? Or has he done enough maybe in Italy for maybe another team to look at him? Or will he go out on loan elsewhere? I've got a suspicious feeling that Vlasic won't be coming back, but he won't be staying at Torino either. And it's quite possible that he'll be going out on loan again next season to another club. Who knows? Maybe in Italy again, or maybe somewhere like Spain or somewhere like that. Conor Coventry, he's been in action. He made his 14th and 15th appearance of the season last week, where he played in a very impressive 2-2 draw against promoted Burnley last Tuesday. And then he was in the game against mid-table Bristol City on Saturday, where they lost 2-1. Conor Coventry has been putting in great shifts for Rotherham United. He's been really a kind of a stalwart. He's made that central midfield position his own, and he started every game since he's been there. Okay, he was subbed in a tactical switch against Bristol City at the weekend. However, it looks to me that Rotherham, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Rotherham decided to try and buy Conor Coventry. Is he destined to come back to West Ham? It's a 50-50. I think he's shown that he's got quality. but quality in the Championship. Now, that's not to say that he can't bring that quality to the Premier League as well. It's going to be quite interesting. I mean, we know we're going to need players in midfield next season with the likes of Declan Rice leaving, etc. But I just wonder. Connor Coventry has done really well for Rotherham. There's going to be a lot of eyes on him. So let's see what happens. I've got a feeling that he might be sort of snapped up by Rotherham or maybe another team in the Championship. They just need Rotherham just need one more win in their last 3 games in order to avoid the relegation zone. They'll probably end up doing it. So good luck to them. Another player out on loan, Brian Kinnear, goalie, made his 10th and 11th start for Scottish Division 1 club Falkirk last week. Last Tuesday, he was in the team that lost 2-1 to FC Edinburgh, and he was back in action at the weekend when Falkirk thumped Alloa 4-1 away from home. With 1 game remaining, they're way behind Dunfermline, who are the winners of Division 1. But he's done really well. Another player that's at the minute, he only missed 1 game. I think the first game after he got transferred over to Falkirk. And another player that could be sort of on his way permanently. There are talks about Kinnear going back to a Scottish team. Whether it be Falkirk or another one, I don't know. Another player out on loan, Nathan Trott. Another player who's been getting quite a lot of game time, the goalkeeper, under 21 or former under 21 goalkeeper. He's been playing in Denmark, as you know. And what I didn't realise, I didn't do my research properly, is that the last few games that he's been playing have been promotion playoff games. So they started at the beginning of April against Sonderjysk, where they lost 2-1. And then it was Vendisel, where they drew 2-2, and Hifidori, a 0-0 draw and another 0-0 draw. And then at the weekend, they got yet another draw against Næstved, 1-1. Trott has been standout. Again, he's been a regular starter for the Danish team. They're a Division 1 club, and he's hoping to help them get promoted into the Danish Superliga. And like Kinnear, he's made the number 1 shirt his own at the club. Last summer, West Ham United extended his contract until 2024. There may be a good chance, it's possible, that he can come back to be the understudy to Areola, who should be, if things go the way they should, who should be the number 1 keeper at West Ham United next season. Of course, all eyes on Fabianski and what happens there. But even if Fabianski does extend his contract by another year, it's got to be Areola's turn, and maybe Nathan Trott coming in as maybe the number 3, something like that. Another player who's didn't get a lot of game time until recently is Thierry Neves, who went to Bradford City in the January transfer window. He was a 33rd minute sub in a rare defeat for Bradford. Their first defeat in 12 games, where they lost 1-0 to Swindon Town. That was last Tuesday. And then that performance that he had there earned him a rare start for Bradford City against Gillingham on Sunday, where they drew 2-2. Neves was subbed after the 62nd minute in a formation change where City tried to push on and win the game. Bradford have got 3 games remaining in the league now, and are clinging on to a playoff place in their league. Right, what about some injuries? Well, we all know about Scamacca. We know he's had his operation and etc. And I think I might have said it, and forgive me if I haven't, about Scamacca, how long he'll be out for. Now, the kind of operation that's been described by his surgeon seems to suggest that he may be back for the tail end of this season. Maybe. If he is, it's going to be interesting to see whether he'll get any game time. I've got a feeling he won't. But at the same time, I've got a feeling if this is the last that we've seen of Scamacca completely. I said in last week's show, he's got new agents. Agents only make money when they sell a player. They don't make any money just because a player is signed to them. So I've got a suspicious feeling that he'll be touted out to probably back to the Italian league. Maybe go out on loan. There's interest from the likes, I believe, by Juventus, maybe AC Milan, etc. They might take him on a loan to buy basis. I kind of think we've seen the last of Scamacca, to be quite honest with you. I think it's a shame. You know, I think there's massive potential, this player. I think it hasn't been used in the right way. And when people talk about Moyes and the way he uses players, this is a prime example. I've got to be honest there. He hasn't used him in the right way. And it'll be a shame. But I kind of got a feeling that he may well be back before the end of the season. Will he be used in any of the games? That probably be down to lack of match fitness. Maybe not. And if he doesn't, it's quite possible that we may have seen the last of him. Right, before I go into the final part of the show with the review of the two games, well, they are general reviews, to be quite honest with you. Let's go back into the chat and see who else is in there. Epic. I'll be fuming if Moyes is here next season. He's sucked the joy out of football for me. Funky T. Moyes in one more season with the team he's built. Lots of teams are blips this season. Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, Leicester, to name a few. Good point. Good evening, Mr. Levin. How are you? I hope you're well. Didn't see you on Sunday. Were you there? I'm sure you were. Frank Suto, good evening to you. Moyes, Attics, again, it seems to me. Stay in the game, go for it at the end. Now it looks like he was staying out the bottom three and is going for it. What do you think? Dangerous game to play. You mean his antics? Yeah. Moyes' antics, again, it seems to me. Stay in the game, go for it at the end. Now it looks like he was staying out the bottom three, is going for it now. It's a dangerous game to play, to be quite honest with you. Eamon, I was going to open up a bottle company in North London, but I feared there would be too much competition. Good evening, Mr. Brown. How are you? I hope you're well, mate. Adam, all the talk about Moyes is just that talk. Moyes isn't going. We win the cup in 3 years in Europe, and we still moan. But who doesn't like a good moan? But you know, this is the other thing, isn't it? If we win this tournament, David Moyes will be the first West Ham manager ever to get us into Europe 3 seasons in a row, ever. If we win this European tournament, that's our first trophy since 1980. You know, forget the Intertoto. We're not talking about that. But seriously, if we win, and I get it, I do really, really do get what people are saying about Moyes' style of play, etc., etc., etc. And yet, this season could actually turn out to be a very successful one. I mean, if we win this trophy, we could be in Europe for the 3rd season in a row, and we've got a trophy in the cabinet, one that we haven't had for years. Sean, Spuds are going to finish 3rd in a 1-horse race for the Europa spot. Don't count on it. Cockney, if we don't lose Moyes, we will end up back where we've been. Too painful for the most part. The thing is, we don't honestly know. I think we want to believe that that's where we'll be. Well, no, we don't want to believe, but we think, yeah, you know, it's been too turgid, etc., etc. We'll be back to square one. I just don't know. I don't know. I said earlier in the show, you know, he has going to have to do another rebuild in the squad. He has going to have to go out and get another maybe 4 or 5 players. I think he'll go for very different type of player. If he stays, I think he'll go for very, very different types of players and not fall into this what's happened this season. He'll have players that he can better manipulate to his style of play. All right, we know it can be boring, but when we're winning, it's not boring, is it? When we're winning and we're winning, you know, we're winning well, like we did against Bournemouth, you know, the point we got against Arsenal, the game against Gent, etc. When we're winning, we don't complain about the style of play. It's only when we're losing it, and it rightly so, it looks awful. Jason, if we win the Euro Cup and stay up playing the type of football we have in the past week, then most of us will be over the moon. Good evening to you, Huge. I hope you're well. Could it be that Moyes is moving upstairs and a new manager comes in? Problem then, what about Noble? That's a really good question, actually, because we have heard Moyes talking about maybe moving to a sort of, I don't know what you call it, like an Alec Ferguson type role, where he's no longer involved in the day-to-day, but he's sort of like I don't know what you call it, really, a technical director or something. Now, my understanding between something like that and what that's more of an ambassadorial role, I guess, if you want to say, which will be a bit different to what Noble's doing, is my understanding. Noble very much on the sort of the youth academy, etc., whereas Moyes could be more like an advisor to maybe a new manager. That's quite possible. I think there'll be a role for both of them. I don't think it'll be one or the other. I think there could be a role for both. If West Ham have that kind of role available to him, I don't know. Howard, thank you very much. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button and the like button and the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. And do hit the like button. It does help the channel. Thank you for reminding me, Howard. Much appreciated. Black Country, sorry, I got a call out. No problem, Black Country. I hope you're well, mate, and hope to see you soon. Jerry, Antonio's like a new signing. I mean, I was putting him down. I was saying, you know, he's finished. He's had it. Where's all this come from all of a sudden? Mind you, he's not the only one. I'm going to go in a minute talk about players and the games and all that sort of stuff. But it's like it's so different. It's unbelievable. And well done to him. David Truelock can't have another season of Moyes. Funky T. Before Moyes came along, we was mid-table club at best, which is very true. If we finish 12th or 13th and win a European Cup, what would we back sacking him for? Overachievement of the past 2 seasons. This is my, that's my question entirely. It will be mid-table and a European trophy. It's going to be, whether we like it or not, it's going to be a successful season. Garino always said that once we got back to playing Europe, it would benefit our league form, and it absolutely has. You're absolutely right there, Garino. The notion of resting players is rubbish. Just look at our results when we do that. Absolutely. Totally agree. And I said earlier in the show, maybe, I'll repeat myself. When I did a show with Nigel ages ago, and he was talking about players like Alvin Martin and all those players, saying we prefer to play than train, and you possibly quite right. Playing on a regular basis gives you that momentum, and we've got a big enough squad now not to suffer what happened at the end of last season, where we just faltered at the finishing line. Cockney doing okay now. Does not negate 16 months of garbage, negative play, and crap Premier League. I totally agree. Not disagreeing with that at all. Stel, remember I predicted we'll finish 13th in the Premier League and win the Europa Conference in last August. You did, sir. You did. Hasn't happened yet, but that's very, very possible. Good evening to you, Irons Lady. Scamacca being out for the season away from the club is the key to our newfound form. He is moody, so-and-so, soured the dressing room. Good shout. It's possible. We've heard that, the dressing room hasn't been a happy one, etc. There were a number of players that were picked out. And Antonio was one of them that apparently was unhappy. Ben Rama, etc., because he was being picked on and so on and so forth. Could it be? It's a very good point, Irons Lady. Could it have been Scamacca? We don't know. Maybe he's found it difficult to settle in. Maybe that's created a bit of the disruption in the team. We don't know. Good shout. James Horton, good evening to you, sir. We look a totally different team. Smiling and confidence is back. Unfortunately, it's too late for me, even if we win a trophy. Thanks, Moyes, but time to go. Good to see you still at the Premier League. Good to see you too, sir. It's a nice little place, that, isn't it, James? Shh, don't tell anyone. Don't tell this bunch of reprobates that all want to go there. Will, pleased to see the Paqueta showing his skill and nice to see how happy he looked after scoring at Bournemouth. I was worried that he would follow the likes of Scamacca if they left in the summer. Yeah. He's looking good. I'm going to talk about him a little bit more in a minute. NWO, new players and Benny have taken time to settle playing well now. Moyes has said this to us, and even I started getting dismissive and saying, stop saying the same thing after 6 months. But could it be that is the whole crux of this, that the new players, it's taken them a while, it's taken them longer than we hoped, and now they've got that bonds with, because what impressed me recently over the last 3 games is Moyes takes a player off, he puts a player on, you think, well, that hasn't weakened us. Takes another player off, puts another player on, that hasn't weakened us. All of a sudden, I've stopped seeing the team in two ways, all the new players and all the existing players. I'm now seeing a squad, and when a player comes on to replace another player being subbed, etc., I think that's fine. Not weakened at all. The substitutions he made against Arsenal, he made against Gent, he made against Bournemouth, continuous flow. Everyone seemed to be on that same rhythm, and it was good to see. It has taken that long. Should it have taken that long? Probably not, but it has taken that long. Sean, Will still may have gone a long unbeaten runs with Reims, but the vast majority of those games were low-scoring affairs. More of the same or better the devil you know. I talked about Will Still. I think it's a nice fantasy to have. West Ham United fan, etc., etc. But for me, that's all it really should be. I think it's a fantasy. As you know yourself, Sean, you know your football, and as you all do, the French league is not the same as the Premier League. It's far, far removed from it. And because you may be doing okay in one of those leagues in Europe, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do well in the Premier League. I'm not so sure about it. I think we've got that nice fantasy because he's a West Ham fan. I'm not so sure. Aidan, yes, let's just get Sully a subscription to Chat GTP and use it for the decisions. No coach needed. Well, isn't that what Brighton do with their formulas that the owner has, etc. And when he brings a manager in, the manager's got to fit, to work that formula, something to that effect. Robert, when did we get Rory de Lapazal long throw coach? Good point. Yeah. Okay, let's go into the last part of the show, shall we? Which is all about, well, kind of a review of the games, but not really. Well, let's go into it anyway. So I said it's a kind of review because it ain't. It is, but it ain't. 2 games to talk about. West Ham United 4, Gent 1, Bournemouth 0, West Ham United 4. 9 games in April so far. We played. I'll start again. 9 games in April so far. We played 7. No, sorry, I'll start again. We've got 9 games in April. We've played 7. That's what I wanted to say. We've got 9 games in April. We've played 7. We've won 4, drawn 2, lost 1, scored 14, conceded 9, which included that mad result against Newcastle, but still 3 clean sheets. Let's be honest. You take the Newcastle game out of that equation. I know you can't, but let's say that's not a bad run. And I think NWO said earlier on in the show, we've gone 10 games unbeaten in all competitions. Not a bad run. 10 games unbeaten in the Premier League. I think since Brighton was our last defeat. I could be wrong. Not a bad run so far. We've had 2 more games. We've got 2 more games before the end of the month. Liverpool on Wednesday and away to Palace on Saturday. I said April was going to be quite pivotal for us. And bar that slip up against Newcastle, we've done really well. It seems that it's better sometimes to just play consistently. We just talked about this rather than waiting a whole week for the next game. Of the squad available to him, Moyes has used 19 different players to start in games, and only one player has not seen any game time in April, and that, of course, is Scamacca being injured. However, the only other 2 players that haven't started yet are Maxwell Cornet and Manuel Lanzini. So rather than last season, flogging the same players in every game, you saw that we ran out of steam last season. You saw we run out of energy, etc. Whereas Moyes has finally started to use the squad. Now, I think that's a good thing. I said it a moment ago that he's bringing players on, he's substituting players, etc., etc. And it's not affecting our rhythm and so on. It's taken so long to do it. Very different from last season, which is why I think I'm a little bit more confident than I was last season. We did great last season, finishing 7th, semi-finalists in a European tournament, but we just ran out of steam. That just all we needed, and as I said many times before, we just needed a couple of players in the January 22 window in order to give us that extra momentum, which we didn't have. This time round, though, all the players that he's got in and so on and so forth, he's finally getting them to gel. Long may it rain. Let's see what happens. But it doesn't look like we're going to run out of steam. Maxwell Cornet, I think, is a player that's going to offer us more. I think that, there's a good player in there. And also, of course, we got Pablo Fornals. You could see how emotional he was when he scored at the weekend. Last season, he played every game. He played something like 53 games in all competitions. This season, he's only had 12 starts in the Premier League and followed up by 8 in all cup competitions. So he must have been wondering, what's he done to sort of not be in favour in the way that he was last season? Moyes talked about him. He said, let me tell you, he's a brilliant, brilliant team player, a great lad. He's probably not had enough minutes, and I found it difficult to find time for him. It's not because of his form, because he's a really great player. And then he went on to say, I hope we can find a way of getting more game time for him, because what Pablo does, Pablo scores goals as well as his all-round play, and it's been pretty difficult to give him as much time as I wanted. I'm sure he was emotional because he wants to play and he deserves it. I'm sure he was emotional because I don't think it's been a great season for Pablo, not because of his form, but he must be wondering, I was quite a pivotal player last season. Why am I not now? Now, obviously, we all know that he could have been given more game time, couldn't he? Because I maintain that he's always better when he's in the middle of the park rather than out wide. He does a job out wide and he does a job well, or as well as he possibly can. But I think he's more effective. And I just wonder if when Souček was having that really bad run of form, and we all kept saying he should be dropped, and almost for the sake of the player, drop and take him out of the firing line. We had Pablo Fornals there. There's no reason, to be quite honest with you, why David Moyes couldn't have used Pablo Fornals more, because you know what you're going to get with Pablo Fornals. He plays with his heart on his sleeve. He plays with energy. He gets his foot in. He tries his best. He's not a player that will let you down, and he will always try his best. And Mr. Moyes, sometimes when you come out with those sorts of comments, I can see why the fan base don't like you, because there were times people were calling for Souček's head. Souček was playing badly. We could all see he was playing badly. He's playing better now, but we could all see he was playing badly. There were two choices really that Moyes could have gone for. Pablo Fornals could have been one of them, and of course Lanzini could have been the other. But Moyes decided not to. So by saying that he wished he could find more game time for him, I kind of don't buy that. I don't know what Fornals has done this season to afford, not being given as much game time as he should have been. But look, what do you put your finger on with a change of form? Some people have said already, well, people are avoiding Moyes and doing their own thing. I don't buy that, to be quite honest with you. You got the same players, the same systems, same approach, but dramatically different. We're in their faces now. We're in the faces of Arsenal. I think that game gave us a huge amount of confidence, to be quite honest with you, when we were in their faces. Made us go out there and go, we can do this and continue doing this and get on the front foot. We were superb against them. Then, of course, the 4-0 against Bournemouth was the icing on the cake. And like I said earlier on, for those of you, the cherry on top of that icing was, of course, the 6-1 drubbing of Spurs at the weekend. Anyway, they just we'll move on. Look, for me, I don't buy into this whole mutiny thing. I don't. I think that there may have been talks, quite possibly, Moyes. But you look at the team, the way we're set up. You look at the lineup, the formation, etc. There seems to be no difference to what's been happening for most of the season. But for some reason, we've gone out there and we finally turned up. And I think it was great. I think the performances that we put in against Gent showed our credentials. This is what we wanted. When we played against Larnaca and then Gent away from home, I walked away from both of those games disappointed and thinking, why have we not shown that we're a true Premier League team? We should have been on the front foot against them. But then both at home, Larnaca weren't very good. But Gent, when they went 1-0 up, how many of you really thought we were going to end up winning that game the way we did? It was almost like a bit of a wake-up call. And we kind of started off well against Gent, but we kind of took our foot, that one mistake for Paqueta. And ironically, Paqueta got absolutely slated for that miss pass, which led to their goal. But you look at that goal, the miss pass, there was still a lot to do. There's still something like 4 defenders in front, behind, in order to try and stop that goal going in, and that didn't happen. But still, we finished strong and we showed our credentials. Now we've got to be the favourites, haven't we? And I know Alkmaar are a good team. I said let's not be dismissive of them, but we've showed our credentials against Gent. We showed just how much better we are in this competition over the opposition. And now my feeling is, ironically, I think we'll beat Alkmaar. And I've got a suspicious feeling that Basel will beat Fiorentina. Because although Fiorentina score goals for fun, they concede goals for fun as well, or not for fun, as the case may be. And for an Italian team to concede as many goals is quite a surprise. So I think we'll go to the final, and I think we will win it. I really do. And I know I'm sounding cocky, and I don't mean to be. It's just that confidence I've got when I look at the way we play in Europe. The only blips for me were the draw in the first leg against Larnaca and the draw in the first leg against Gent. Other than that, I think we played superbly, and I think that competition is us to lose for us to lose rather than any team sort of doing one over on us. Go to the Premier League. Bournemouth, that game, all right, you could argue it was a team that was in the relegation zone, etc., etc. But look at their form over the last few weeks. Well, did they win something like 4 in their last 6? This was their first defeat for like 7 games or something like that. I could be wrong, but it's quite a number of games that they haven't been defeated in. And we turned up and we did a good number on them away from home. We played with confidence. We were superb. And like I said earlier on, we made the changes, bringing on Downs, Fornals, Ings, Cornet, etc. Didn't weaken the team at all. It kept that momentum going, and that was good to see. Rice playing with a smile on his face. Paqueta has got to be the most improved player in our squad in the second half of this season. Bowen, Antonio, Benrahma, all of a sudden they're beginning. Benrahma actually had not a great game. It was all right, but not the best of games. But Bowen and Antonio all did really well. Souček, as I said, doing all the dirty work. Even Cresswell. How many of you winced when you saw Cresswell on the team sheet? But even he did his job. And I think it's been superb. Soufal was immense, absolutely immense. The cross he sent in for Paqueta's goal was just superb. And when we give Moyes, when we say Moyes is done wrong, etc., and we put him down and so on, when we're, sometimes it's harsh, sometimes it's understandable. We've also got to give him credit when he turns things around. And you got to say that Moyes has, for the last 3 games, has certainly turned things around. Scoring goals for fun, completely different mindset. Back-to-back win. You know what? Also, back-to-back away wins since January 2022. That's the first time we've won 2 away wins in a row since January 2022. 1 defeat in 10. We've most definitely turned the corner, I think. But for me, the player that looks to me that has, as I said a moment ago, that has improved immensely is Lucas Paqueta. There's a suggestion that when Declan Rice leaves, we're not going to get the sort of players we need. What are we going to do? We're going to fall apart, etc. I'm not so sure. Paqueta could control that midfield. He likes to get his foot in. He's a very skillful footballer. He's now creating goals. He's scoring goals. He plays with flair. And put the right player around him, someone like a Fornals or someone like a Lanzini. Could we have a future? Maybe not to the levels of Payet, but could he be that sort of player that will, give us that smile on our faces? He plays the game with ease. He plays it with arrogance. All right, he makes a mistake or two, but he's not the sort of player. How many flair players do you see when they make a mistake, they sort of shrug their shoulders and go, oh, well, so what? He tries to get the ball back. He's one of those sorts of players that he gets his foot in. And I like that about him because he's got the flair, but at the same time, he's not afraid to do the dirty work as well. A future midfield legend for West Ham? Who knows? Let's see. We're certainly going to need someone to look up to when Declan goes, if he goes. And why not someone like Paqueta? I think he's been most improved, and I look forward, hopefully, to seeing much more of him. And then talking about players moving, etc., and managers moving. Well, we talked about this. We've done more than half the show about this with Moyes, etc. What of them? I've said it. I've said it already. 12 managers sacked in the Premier League so far this season, and yet Moyes, the board have stuck with him, pulling them away from the relegation zone. We're now 6 points clear of that with a game in hand. Yes, all right. The game is against Man City, but if we play anywhere near what we played against Arsenal, then why not nick a point from that as well? Has he finally got it right? Was he right all along in saying that it's taken time for the team to gel? He's most certainly getting a tune out of them now. Will it continue? A lot of you are not convinced that it will. Let's see what happens. But I asked the question again, and many of you have already answered. If he wins the trophy and keeps us in the Premier League, does he get a respite? It seems not with a lot of you. But what about Rice? Well, Rice, as you heard during the game, those of you who watched the game, or those of you who are at it, one more year, Declan Rice. We know that it's it's not likely to happen, but might give him food for thought. Look, just for a moment, I know what he's worth now. We want 100 million for him, etc. And this is our last chance to get that sort of money for him at the end of this season. But he talks about captaining this team with pride. He's immensely proud. Okay. He grew up being a Chelsea fan, but you cannot deny that West Ham is in his heart. Without a shadow of a doubt, you could see the pride. You could see the way when it goes well, he's the happiest man on the pitch. Captaining this team, he does it with pride. If we win a European trophy, more good players to come in the summer transfer window on top of what we've already got. Possibly Europe again for the 3rd season in a row. Could it be? Could it be that he might be tempted? I did talk about Declan Rice a few weeks ago, saying that it's quite possible. It's quite possible that he might decide to see out his contract. West Ham won't like it, but we'll get another couple of years out of him. He could see out his contract and walk away and sign for whoever he wants. You know, he could sign for whoever he wants, for however much he wants, get a signing on fee. He can go to any club he chooses, you know, etc. Could it be that he does that? I don't know. Maybe a long shot, but it might give him food for thought. If we can finish this season strong, maybe. It depends on how much West Ham United want to sell him. And my understanding is West Ham United would rather not sell him. Would they rather see him go for nothing? If we get 2 more years out of him and we get an improved squad around him, etc., the likes of Paqueta settling in, other players settling in, getting other players in, etc., to take over from the players who are end of their contracts, players who are in their mid-30s, etc., Declan might go, well, actually, this ain't too bad. European football again next season, you know, Premier League football next season, etc., better players around. Maybe. Let's see. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Look, I know there's so many stories out there that talk about Declan Rice. He's already signed for Arsenal, etc. It's a load of claptrap. We know that nothing's been agreed yet. But we also know that his dad is his agent and his dad, you know, is looking for potential deals. Let's not forget, West Ham United won't sell him unless someone turns around and says, that's how much you want, there's the money. If a club don't come up with that money, he ain't going. We won't sell him. And also, there could be a possibility that there might be a club that might want to give the money, but Declan may not want to go to that club. You know, thought about that. You know, people are talking about, oh, well, if it won't be Arsenal, Newcastle have got the money. But it may be that he may not want to go to certain clubs. He may want to decide his own future. It's going to be, I don't know. It's in the balance, to be quite honest with you. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens at the end of this season and see what happens. But look, it will not surprise me if Declan Rice goes. It won't surprise me if we sell him. I think we're all expecting that, etc., etc. It will kind of surprise me in a good way if he stays for another season. Right. Let's scroll down. Epic. I hope Moyes gets bit by a snake in Australia. Good evening to you, Moa along. Give Moyes time. He deserves it. I really believe he will win us the Premier League in the next 2 or 3 seasons. Even I can't say that I would believe that, to be honest with you. Sean, put his name in the ring before. Kieran McKenna at Ipswich, former manure coach, will go places. Yeah, interesting. I don't know much about him, but good shout. Jerry, I remember 2 seasons ago when we were enjoying ourselves. Moyes spearheaded that. Dangerous from set pieces and lots of energy. We have got to return to that kind of playing. I think we can. And I think we've shown glimpses of that, didn't we? In the last few games. Garino, whatever happens with Moyes, we will still need some more investment to upgrade certain positions. Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. You can go through it. You've got to decide what we're going to do with Fabianski. There's talk about him maybe extending his contract. He's already got an extension clause in his contract, but will he accept that if he becomes number 2, becomes the cup keeper? I don't know. Right back, Soufal's been playing great, but you need a backup for him. Ben Johnson's lost form completely, so we know we need a backup. We need another centre-back to back up. You know, Oggy, we don't know if he's going to get another contract or not, but we certainly need another centre-back. We know Zuma is going to be out for 3 or 4 months every season. Left back, we do need a replacement for Cresswell. Emerson's been doing well, but we need a left back too. If Declan goes, we need another midfielder. If Scamacca goes, we need another striker. We will need 5 or 6 players. There's absolutely no doubt in it. We will do. Graham, the Youth Cup final is live on the FA app. Great. Thank you for that. I didn't know that. So if you want to watch the Youth Cup final, thank you for that, Graham. It's on the FA app. Moyes might end up meeting Ray Shoesmith, Mr. In-Between in Australia. He's big on respect. Might teach him a lesson. I've got no clue who you're talking about, but I'll take your word for it. Debenham Dave, looking forward to the first visit to the Emirates and seeing us lift the Youth Cup. You're going as well, Dave. It's going to be a wonderful night. It's going to be. I went to the semi-final. I kind of wish I'd gone to more games now for the under-18s. They're a fantastic little team. Garino, notice Mbama played for the under-21s at the week. He did at the weekend against Liverpool. It's interesting. We didn't see any pictures of him in training for the under-18s, but I wouldn't. It would surprise me if he didn't play in that game Cockney, we're in a better position now, but still in the relegation fight. Don't disagree with that. How in any world can this be good enough to keep Moyes' job? Well, we are still in the relegation fight. One more win and we'll be out of it. Victor, good evening to you. We're going to Australia because we are contracted to. Should have gone a couple of seasons ago, but we didn't because of COVID. It's nothing to do with Moyes. The club is contracted to go. You know what, Victor? I didn't know that. I didn't know we were contracted to go. But they could have, I guess they could have picked any year. I don't know. But yeah, thank you for that. I didn't realise that. It's not worth it. 800 more subscribers and I don't, mate. Thank you. 80 or 800. I don't know. You tell me. Trudge. We hit form at perfect time, and people want to spend all their time talking about sacking the manager. But you know, with respect, I respect everyone that's got that opinion. I'm not dismissive of that, and I totally get it. I totally get why people still want him gone. But it will beg the question: if the season ends up being successful, what then? George, good evening to you. Crazy. If we let Moyes go, would definitely regret it. See, that's the other side of the coin. Some people still think that he should stay. Juha, winning a trophy in Europe and going down will get us Guinness World Record for a first. Wigan did it, and then they ended up in Europe in the Championship. So unfortunately, we can't even claim that. Howard, Psycho said on Talk Shite that this is a normal season for West Ham. The last two, we have been punching well above our weight. And I do believe that. I think we have been punching above our weight. Would we like that to become the norm? Of course we would. Of course we want to become a regular top half of the of the league team, trying to compete for Europe every season. Of course we would. But he's right. You know, do you think about our history? You know, the odd cup competition, the odd, decent finish in Europe. In Premier League or in the old Division 1. And that's been about it. But if we start to be a bit more consistent, if we get into Europe for the third season in a row and also win a trophy, I mean, that's unprecedented, isn't it? NWO, a trophy possible, 3 seasons in Europe, sat the match. See, people do have that. People are still split over this, John, I'm going to be in with the Arsenal fans as my boys a season ticket holder, having him Good evening, Ali. How are you? Fornals drop tears. Not for the way he scored the goal, not for the situation this season. No, it's because, unfortunately, he hasn't played as many games as we would all liked him to be quite honest with you. I'm 50 minutes behind on the chat, so I'm going to have to maybe start skipping a few. My apologies. WHU, still, there are opportunities for 2 or 3 of our youth to get into the Premier League game time. For example, why not play Mbama 15 minutes instead of Ings for a few matches? When we're in the position that we're in, I kind of get it, to be quite honest with you. To be honest, I would have liked to have seen Mbama come on for the last 10 minutes when we were like 3-0 up against Gent. Yeah. But in the Premier League, you're not likely to see that, to be quite honest, mates. Jerry, people wanted Alex Ferguson out and Man U stuck by him. What a decision. Yeah, there you go. Michael M, good evening to you. You have to take it to a team. You have to take it to a team to win. Bournemouth were poor, but most important thing is we went at them. Confidence and team unity coming back. Good point. Vinay, if Talk Sport had their way, no manager will ever get sacked. I'm not so sure about that. Victor, can we all talk about bringing in a progressive manager? But does anyone really trust Sullivan to do that? He has no track record of doing it. Sullivan is the sort of, if Sullivan had knee-jerked, I think Sullivan would have made the same mistake as he did with Pellegrini. And I think that the concern at the moment is that he might end up doing that. And there might be 1 or 2 managers in that kind of Pellegrini mold that might look good on paper, but not necessarily deliver. Would it be the sort of manager that will go out and get a progressive manager? Does he know enough about football to do so? Probably not. And that's where he'll start relying on being given advice, to do that. I agree with you, Victor. I'm not so sure, even though Sullivan's been in football, he's been running a football team, doesn't necessarily mean he knows enough about football. You know what it's like, when he used to get involved in transfers, that sort of wheeler dealer type approach, it's a good question. Would he know how to, or what kind of progressive manager we need? Probably not. Other owners have visions of what they want their team to be, don't they? And so they go out and they get a manager in the mold that they want. I'm not so sure. I think you've got a good point. I'm not so sure. Sullivan will know what type of manager. He'll listen to the press and he'll read all the news about this guy and this guy, etc., etc. But no, you got a good point. I'm not so sure he would know what kind of manager he would need to bring in. Vino, why would it get worse under company? It wouldn't. Or someone else. Moyes will waste millions. Areola, Paqueta, Scamacca will all leave and Moyes stays. Not necessarily. Scamacca, I think, yes. Areola, if he's not given the number 1 slot next season, yes. Paqueta, not so sure. Certainly wouldn't get worse under company, but I don't think, to be quite honest with you, company will come to West Ham United. I genuinely think he'll want to see how he can do with Burnley next season. Might give it a season or 2 with them, see how he fares in order to cut his teeth in the Premier League with the team, and then see what happens. Excuse me. But then I think Man City have got eyes on him, to be honest. Keith, I've got my son-in-law coming over to watch the game with me on Wednesday. That's going to be fun. Yeah, it won't be fun for him though, will it? Paqueta is levels above our club. He's a fantastic player. Fantastic. And I think he can only get better. Garino. Scamacca will be back, in my opinion. No way will the club sell him on at a loss. Anderson, as you mentioned, Hilaire. We let Anderson and Hilaire go. That rules out most Italian clubs. That said, if Rice leaves, then yeah, he's let Vlasic go. He bought Vlasic. He's let him go. Quite possibly, we'll end up selling him for a big loss as well. Henry, good evening to you. Weird how most of our summer signings have started to settle in at the same time. We talked about that earlier on. It's very weird. Good evening, James from and you're absolutely right, Henry. Is it finally they finally found their way of playing, or the way of Moyes wanting them to play? Good evening, James from Santa Monica. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Days, if we get our wingers closer to Scamacca, he will score. Totally agree. He needs support without a shadow of a doubt. Scamacca's not that sort of player that can play as a lone striker. We know that. Jack, I forgot to mention Ings. Did I? I don't know. I'm mentioning Ings now. People, I've really got. I've got so many comments, and I'm nearly an hour behind, so I've got to jump. So let's pick out a few. Eamon, Rice telling us Souček is going to be our captain next season. Seriously, I think Rice is going to see his contract out with us, then go to Chelsea on a free. There you go. My gut tells me, that's the sort of thing that could happen. Debenham Dave, agree. Signings have been fairly good. Think if Scamacca was to stay. Much in the same way as Paqueta is now adjusted to the Premier League, it could come good. I totally agree. Although I suspect he's off in the summer. I do suspect he's off in the summer as well. Anthos. Hi, Souček has improved still. Saw him touch the ball at least 5 times. Good evening, Downey 8. How are you? Don't you think the rise in form is just due to players getting more and more used to how the team plays? You can clearly see that Paqueta is improving game by game. Yeah. Is that Moyes? Is that the players? Is that player revolt? I don't know. You got a good point. For whatever reason, it's taken this long for them to start gelling. Garino, still crying like 4 hours after a scorpion kick at the Howard, can we have a Masuaku watch as a segment on the show? No. I'm sure people are interested in one of our legends. No. Peter, Antonio's lost half a yard in pace. He has, but he has. Look, to be really honest, I don't, we can't keep relying on Creswell, Fabianski, Ogbonna, who I love, but Ogbonna, Antonio, etc. We do need replacements for these players without a shadow of a doubt. Eamon, don't worry, still King Masuaku will be back to manage West Ham in a couple of years. Can you imagine that? The shit show that would be. Good grief. Sean, Coventry would be ideal for Burnley. Should be ripping it up for Rotherham to have a chance with us. I like the kid, not so much as a kid, but he needs to have a proper career. He's doing really, really well at Rotherham, to be honest with you. He really is. I'm glad for him. I really am. Steve, Arse qualified year after year, never won, means nothing. Be surprised if Moyes can win anything. Win that. That's what he does, not trophies. I know he said that, and it was wrong for him to do so. Nataria Maludlets, good evening to you. Get job now to prove wrong killers. is useful. They say, killers, you're stupid too. I've got no idea what you're talking about. And given the fact that you've repeated yourself about 10 times, I'll bid you, let's not get rid of the wrong person. Let's get rid of Nataria. Bye-bye, Nataria. Right. Eamon. I think players' injuries and players out of form and new players getting to learn about teammates, run, how to fit in the team, etc. That's why I think it's been a hard season, but we are better. That's, I'll ask the question again to those of you who joined the show late. That I asked a question right at the start. If we continue to keep this momentum going, and I know, those of you who've already answered, you don't have to answer again. If we keep this momentum going, players settling in, the sort of the football that we've been playing for the last 3 games, etc. And if we win a trophy next season, Moyes in or Moyes out? Eamon. We have played a lot of games in the last 2 seasons without much of a break in between. This season has caught a few teams out. Good point. Martin Duggan. It has been poor, the football this season. The tactics given been so predictable. Players have looked unhappy, but let's hope we turn a corner. Have we not turned that corner now? I kind of think that we have, to be honest. Daniela. If we look at this season as a whole, we're not only the team that's been poor compared to the last 2 seasons, we're not the only team that's been poor. Yeah, there are other teams that have also suffered as well. Keith, Will Still should be Spurs' new manager, as in Will Still not... Irons Lady, I take the Argentinian striker from Southampton. He looked pretty sharp against the Gooners. That's what we'll probably do. We'll look at the teams that might go down and try and pick. I actually don't like that. If you've gone down with a team, it probably means something, doesn't it? That the player, Damien, how kind of you. Thank you. You didn't have to, but thank you very much. I'm much appreciated. Good evening, John. Would it have been different if we had signed Bournemouth? No. I didn't rate him. I know he had a good half a season for Southampton and then did nothing for the second half of the season. I genuinely didn't rate him, to be really honest with you. I know other people think otherwise, but I didn't. Anthony, we're going to finish above Chelsea. Wouldn't that be hilarious? I mean, seriously. Frankie's doing a great job for them, isn't he? He must be a West Ham fan after all. He's keeping them there so we can catch up and overtake them. What else we got? Eamon. Cornet's a good player. He would do a good job for us for sure. I agree. Keep him fit, and I think he'd be fine. NWO, play 4 nows. No Benny fans moan. Benny has got better as well. No. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not suggesting that Benny's been rubbish. I think he's had a decent season, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, play 4 nows. Only when Souček was out of form, Moyes could have put 4 nows in the middle there. He could have given him more game time. Billy Bob, Moyes talking bullshit, and unfortunately not for the first time. Well, we know there's some things that I think about a season or so ago, I was talking about doing Moyesisms, because he does come out with some odd things, doesn't he? That make you want to laugh, and at the same time you want to go, mate, just don't. Garino, difference is we're playing on the front foot, pressing as a group and actually passing forward quickly rather than trying to build slow. Agreed. Yeah, and it's good to see. It's good to see. Do forgive me, people, because I'm trying to catch up. I'm going to have to skip a few comments. My apologies. Back to 3 games a week has got us in a flow rhythm. That's why, from Punky T, that's why the change of form, in my opinion. I also think Ings challenging Antonio for the shirt has changed his form too. I'd agree with that. Downey 8. We won both legs against Larnaca. We did. I think it was the way we played out there is what I meant, to be quite honest with you. We kind of did that. It was kind of lackluster. It wasn't really, you didn't see the quality difference. We did it at home, but out there, we went out there and it was a boring game, to be honest. Sean, but hey, we did the business. We did the job. Sean, Souček would be ideal sub to bring on as an enforcer to see out games. Good shout. Yeah. Paul, good evening to you. The reason for our change of form, Paqueta is well and truly settled in now. Everything runs through him. The space he creates like a bubble around him. He is fan-bloody-tastic. I think he could become, I said it earlier. That's why I did a piece on him. I think he could become a big, big player for West Ham. It's not worth it. Soufal was probably man and match. He was immense. He was great. Vinay, it's not about Moyes. The question is, can another manager do better and play more intelligent football? Possibly. You know, and I know people want certain managers. The thing I find really hilarious is that the manager situation has become our new transfer window. Do you know, if you remember, those of you who've been watching me for quite a long time, you know how I take the piss out of the transfer window because there's a story there. There's like 10 stories a day, you know, and if you remember some of my old West Ham Weekly shows, I used to fill it, you know, with all these transfer stories. People are like, where'd you get that from? Where'd you get that from? All these stories that were coming out there. And now we're getting that with the manager situation. Oh, we're going to get so-and-so in. Oh, there's this manager that's going to come in, or that manager. He's about to sign. Here, I saw him at I saw him at Canary Wharf. He's at the hotel there. This manager's coming in, that manager. It's become a bit like that. You know, all the sort of all the news, all the sort of stories about players in transfer windows has moved across to managers coming in now, and we keep getting a different manager every week. We've got so many different managers that are about to take over West Ham. I don't know how much of that is true, if any of it, to be quite honest with you, because when we ask the questions, you know, anything in the pipeline, the answer is always no. We're sticking with Moyes. Billy Bob, Stale, Moyes is and always will be. How can I answer that, Bob? Eamon, all this crap talk that Moyes devalues players is Paqueta being and still devalued, or would you say is now worth more than 50 mil? Oh, good point, Eamon. It's a good point. James, I'm loving the Moyes winding up the whiners. More of the same, please. Oh, great one. I'm not winding anyone up. Mr. Man, don't sell Paqueta unless the offer is massive. Don't sell him, full stop. Let's keep these players. Let's build around them. If Declan goes, we need a new pivot in the middle of that park. You know, Paqueta with the right players around him could become that player. NWO. He could go from club cap to bench warmer. Who can? I've forgotten who you're talking about. NWO. Fergie never won anything in the first 4 years. What was it? He won the League Cup, didn't he, to save his career? Let's scroll down. FA Youth Cup is being filmed live on YouTube too. I didn't know that. So there you go. You got the FA website or YouTube as well to watch that. Good evening, usual. I hope you're well, mates. You turned up late, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do, especially for you, mate. I'm going to really look. Talked about the women's team. They got absolutely smashed. We talked about the under-21s who were unlucky against Liverpool. We talked about all these new... Kevin Keane rested virtually the whole first team, the under-18s, and played all these youngsters who just beat Leicester 3-1. And then, of course, we're preparing for the FA Cup. We talked about the youth final. Noble talked big about the academy, what he wants it to be. Then we talked about players on loan. Vlasic did an assist. Excuse me. Coventry playing really well for Rotherham. Excuse me. Kinnear at Falkirk made the number one shirt his own. Nathan Trott at Vegel made the number one shirt his own. Nevers hasn't played for a long time. Finally started to get a bit of game time at Bradford. Well done to him. Skamaka, don't think he'll be back. Cornet, he's not started a game yet, but I think he could be a pivotal player for us come the end of the season. Fornals, of course, he's emotional. He was one of our best players last season, not getting as much game time as he should be. And he loves West Ham. He wants to play for West Ham. And I think Paqueta could be a future legend for us. And then I've talked about Moyes and Rice. And who knows, they both might stay. That's a quick catch up for you, usual. Who else have we got? Epic. Moyes has more than 1,000 games as a manager. He's not suddenly going to become a good manager. Has he ever been? But has he been a really bad manager? I don't know. I mean, yes, some of the football he's played has been turgid, but let's not forget what at Everton, he never finished below 10th or 11th, I think, apart from one season where they almost got relegated. Other than that, he never finished below 11th in the league. Let's scroll down. Alan. Hi, Jack Levin. Hope you're well. Great being a hammer for a change. Jack, did you comment up there? Brian Flowers, greetings from New Hampshire. Good evening to you, or good morning to you, or whatever time it is over there. If Moyes has been given Cornet proper game time, he'd be quality. I agree. I am actually surprised that Cornet hasn't started any games yet. Thank you very much, Shimon. Much appreciated, mate. And thank you for watching and getting involved. Shimon again. I agree. Not to look at players who went down. I've got this thing about players. There are one or two gems. You know, I think that the first player that Moyes is going to go for, if if Southampton go down is Ward-Prowse. He's going to definitely go for him. Jesse Lingard getting relegated with Forest. Karma's a bitch. Oh, wouldn't that be funny? Irons, good evening to you. Skamaka is good. Look how he was up in the World Cup. Without his injury, he's been our best attacker this year. Rice will sign a new contract. He loves the club. Rice won't sign a new contract, but I agree with you. Skamaka is a good player. Gary in Oz, I hope you're well, mate. Unfortunately, I have to say, Benny is lightweight. I like Benny, but he ain't got a good shot on him, has he? Steve, good evening to you. I think Moyes will keep us up, so the best we can in the cup and leave. Consider his second half of game better. Consider his second half of his game better. Prove the point. Now time to go. Cheers to you, Scott. Much appreciated. Brian, I'm catching up with the comments. Moyes has finally let the boys play a bit forward. That's why we have seen better games. Moyes should have done this in October. Therefore, he has to go. Steve. Moyes made the statement he'd come back and as he had a job to do. On paper, looks great. Someone will want him. We need to move on. Well, I don't think he'll get another Premier League job, to be honest with you. Billy, good evening to you. This is my ultimate 11th this season. Areola, Emerson, Soufal, Zuma, Agurd, Paqueta, Benny, Bowen, Rice, Downs. I should have changed to 10s because our strikers have been pants. Steve. Still say no room for sentiment. Fab, Creswell, Bonner, Antonio to go in the summer, or for the I agree. You know, I do agree. Fabianski, I will be disappointed if, with the greatest of respect to him, I think he's been great this season, but I will be disappointed if Fabianski is our number one next season. Creswell, he's come back all right, but he needs to be replaced. Bonner has been fantastic, but we know he needs to be replaced. And Antonio, I don't disagree at all. Shimon, if we qualify for Europe again, let's get a group with Israeli and say, oh, it's Sai, mate. I only just realised who it is. It's Sai. I hope you're well, mate. If we qualify for Europe again, let's get a group with Israeli and Cypriot teams with Hamrun Spartans thrown in to make it a great group. Great. Why don't we start up an Israeli and Cypriot Facebook group or something like that? Aiden. Ange Postecoglou is an incredible manager. He will be at the top in a few years' time. Do you know what? He's something like about 52 years of age. He's not young. He's not young. Everyone's talking about getting a young manager in, but he's not that young. And he's only really done it. You know, Celtic has been his biggest team. He's done it in Japan and Australia, etc. But they're not big leagues, are they? To be honest with you. Beats, good evening to you. Paqueta has only a handful of good performances. I'm sure there'll be many teams in for him anyway, to be honest. Let them. I think he'll stay. I think he'll stay. Steve, Moyes was Fergie's chosen one. Moyes is the dark side, dinosaur football, one-trick pony. Sean, AZ have played 16 games in the conference to get this far. Won 13, drawn none, lost 3. They'll be losing another 2. Let's scroll down. James, Cornet is too lightweight. I don't know. I think there's a good player in there, to be honest with you, mate. Can't listen to the Moyes press conferences. I do try and catch up with him to know what the latest thing he said, but I've slackened off a bit. Spencer, good evening to you. Players ain't playing for Moyes. They're playing for the badge and the fans. I know other people have said the same thing. I know, but I don't agree with that. I don't. Right, last one, and then I'm off. Aiden, Angie's jobs have progressively gotten bigger. He's a slow burn type, all good signs. So if he's a slow burn and he's gotten to Celtic, how long will it take him to get to grips with the Premier League? I don't think we'll be tolerant, do you? That's it. Thank you all very much for joining. Thank you all very, very much for all your comments, etc. Really much appreciated. I've enjoyed the show tonight. Of course I have. Because we've been on this little streak. You know, we're going to carry on doing it. We're going to carry on doing it on Wednesday. Fuck me, we're going to get a fucking win out of, or we'll get a positive result out of Liverpool. Then we're off to bloody Palace at the weekend. We'll get a result as well there. Thank you all for watching. Really much appreciated. All right then, Sean. One more. There you go. Really much appreciated. Do hit the like, subscribe, bell notification, all that sort of crap to help the channel. See you all very soon. I'll be back with another show, pre-recorded. Won't be a Friday night this coming Friday, but there will be one the following Friday. But look out for more shows. And if you hit the bell notification, you know when they're next on. Have a great week. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to win the FA Youth Cup tomorrow. We're going to beat Liverpool on Wednesday. We're going to beat Palace on Saturday. It's going to be a great week. Have a good week, everyone, and I'll see you all very soon.